Steve Magnante here at Orlando Speed World with Ron Ortiz with maybe one of the more unusual drag cars on the strip this weekend, a 1967 Plymouth station wagon. Tell me about this car and why you chose this for use in U-Stock automatic drag racing.
A long time ago, I had access to the NHRA books and stuff, and we looked at a class and it was like, it just fit. There wasn't a whole lot of cars in the country in that class. The ones that were in the West Coast. It was low horsepower, so it wouldn't break anything. Didn't have enough horsepower to break anything. And it was just a nice class to be sitting in. So for years I tried to run that class, but never got it. And I had a wagon and I left it in Chicago. And then this one came up for sale some time ago and we bought it. And it's been like 3 different paint jobs. You know.
Now a lot of people might say you've got to have a 383 under the hood, right? What do you have under this hood?
Under this is the 273 two-barrel. Running a 904 baby torque flight.
Okay, yeah.
It's just it's low horsepower. The maximum is 6,000 RPMs.
Yeah.
So it's it doesn't hit too high.
And you got to have a Formula S 4-barrel on there from a Barracuda, or no?
It's a 2-barrel.
2-barrel.
It's a 2-barrel carburetor. Would you like to see it?
Yeah. Sure. Let's pop the hood and have a look. And this is the factory cast iron 2-barrel manifold.
Yes, sir. Yep.
And of course, in this class, do you have to run the stock camshaft specifications?
Well, for a stock eliminator, you have to run stock lift, but you can have any duration or any overlap. Okay. But the lift on this is 411, so that's basically a dot welded on a pipe.
The stock rating on this was 180 from the factory, the 2-barrel back in '67.
Right.
What has this got, you think?
Now it's been refactored to 166.
Okay.
So my minimum weight is 3490. We're sitting at 3580. We're 100 pounds over. We try to keep that way in case somebody hits it, and then they have to add weight back in again. So we just leave it alone.
Now the beauty of a station wagon is weight transfer and weight distribution. Is more mass on the slicks, so you hook up better.
Well, the slicks we run 32 pounds of air in the slicks because it doesn't spin. It hooks in water. So it's really nice on that aspect of it. Yeah. Sometimes we'll take a whole bunch of people and just jump in the car and just drive around. So it's convenient being a 9-passenger originally, but we don't have to run the back seat because it's optional for stock eliminator.
Can you put ballast in the back, legally, like lead bars or something?
Yes, we have
block or something?
We have ballast back here.
Let's take a peek.
Right here, we carry our weight ballast.
Now I noticed there's some vegetation inside. Yeah. And tell me more about that.
That's Spanish moss. It's one of the products that we sell, Moss for You. We're a bulk supplier for mosses. We do fresh, dried, and preserved mosses. And we sell them all over the country to United States, continental United States.
Yeah. Well, great. Just the name, thus the name, the Moss wagon.
Right.
It all makes sense now.
Right. And then we added the moss there, and then the paint job was also done with. They took moss samples and got the color code out of it, and then they applied it like that. So it's just like moss.
Very cool. So, just goes to show that less can be more, and sometimes the most unusual and unpredicted package can be very competitive according to the rule book and on the drag strip.
Yes. We had the seats all redone and everything. The motor that's in this car right now, we've got from David Koopman and Dick Moreland, who passed away recently. But that's the motor that we have in the car right now. We have Chase Banyas over there as our crew chief. Also, another sponsor we have on the car is Tip of the Spear Football.
Okay.
And Tip of the Spear Football is former NFL players who coach coaching staffs, like professional football teams like the Cowboys, the Colts, something like that. And they do major colleges also, high schools, and youth organizations.
So it takes one to train one, really?
Right. So they teach it, and it's the object is to keep the head out of contact, so for safety reasons, but increase performance at the same time, because no one's going to want to do something a little bit safer on the NFL level, and it decreases their performance. So it increases their performance through leverages, and it's a great company, and we've dealt with them for several years now. So we're happy about that.
It's a great car and a great cause, and the great thing about a 4-door is that it's twice as hard to get your doors blown off.
Yeah. And what's nice about this car, though, is it's such a slow car because it falls into U automatic, which is the slowest or the heaviest car with the smallest V8. The class above me would be a 6-cylinder class, and that would be V, and then 4 cylinders is W. So there's a space in there for anyone who wants to race within stock eliminator. If you wanted to have a lower budget, the slower classes, are economical in comparison to the fast guys.
I'm sort of a drag racing historian. Back in 1966, 67, Lee Smith had a car called the Hemi-powered.
Yeah.
Had a street Hemi in one of the, it wasn't built that way from the factory, but it was a traction monster.
Yeah.
Fairly competitive, but that was maybe this car's granddaddy, if you will, spiritual ancestor.
This car here has, you can run a 273, and you can run a Hemi and a 440. And a 383 also. So,
but of course, that puts you in a more competitive
classes, right?
A lot of fish and
right.
Yeah.
So we have that, and we also have our other sponsor here, and it's called Frowned Upon, and that's a tournament fishing and apparel. Okay. You know, so that's the thing, and we're really happy with the car. You know, it's fun to drive. Since it's on the low end of the speed spectrum, you know, I get more time on the track.
And it runs in the low 14s, mid 14s?
Yep, mid 14s,
That's
right.
a pretty good number. I mean, it's exciting. It probably gets your attention for sure.
The fun thing about it is when I leave, I have a clean tree, so I have plenty of time to get through my gears, and then I look in the rearview mirror, and I just see the chassis of the other cars coming. So then the fun happens. Right. You know, so we get down there, and they come by pretty fast.
Well, Ron Ortiz, have a great weekend, and thanks for
talking. Slow down probably about a tenth or so, just because the weather's a little bit different. So we're going to go with a 14:45 for the first round. So hopefully that we can run right on that.
Good luck. Have some fun.
Oh, it's fun time now. It's round one. This is what it's all about.
Steve Magnante here at Orlando Speed World with Lauren McMaster with a very unusual top dragster. This has a second generation Hemi Brad Anderson heads. Now, why don't you run a big block Chevy like most of the other competitors here do? You get a Hemi.
Well, I know this is easier to work on. We can take the valve covers off, check valve lash, all that stuff, and it's much easier to work with, you know? Yeah, get to spark plugs easy. Yep, you get to the bottom end very easy. He likes to check the bottom end after every race just to make sure everything looks good, all that stuff. So
this runs on methanol. How many gallons were you using?
Five in a run.
Gallons.
Yep, 5 in a run.
You know, quarter-mile pass.
Yes, yeah.
Including the burnout.
Well, most of it is starting up in the burnout for sure. But yeah.
I saw you run 230 plus on this
Yes.
about an hour ago.
Yes.
An hour and a half ago.
Yeah.
It goes straight, and
Yes, it does.
it's amazing to see a Hemi. You know, usually big motor, rat motor, or something like that, which is cool. But this is very innovative and novel.
It sounds cool too, you know.
Yes, it does. There's a special sound to it.
Yes,
And,
yeah, it's a blast to drive, and I love it. I feel very safe in it, and hopefully one day we're striving for 610 at 240. So yeah.
This is Friday qualifying. How are you doing so far in the field?
I think I'm fifth right now, but we're going to try to bump that up a little bit here in our Q3 and see what we can do. Yeah.
Do you find yourself often catching and passing the big block Chevy powered cars, or is there a trend? Or
typically, yes, I come up on them pretty fast.
So the top end charge.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. Yep.
Good stuff. Lauren McMaster, thank you for your time.
Thank you
for running a Hemi,
awesome.
Second gen Hemi.
Yeah.
It does my heart good.
Great. Well, it's nice to meet you.
Run go?
Not as good as we expected. We had a little mechanical malfunction. We lost oil pressure half truck, and they've now taken it completely apart and trying to figure out what happened. And we feel a piece of rocker or push rod got caught up in the oil pump, and then that caused catastrophic failure underneath, and then now here we are. So
Now, is it an oil light that comes on? How do you know when there's trouble with the oil light?
I didn't.
Okay.
So I was in it the whole time.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
so it was a mistake on my part. I mean, it's just still learning, and it's okay. You know, it's all learning, and it's fun, and it's a bummer, but we'll learn from it, and we'll be stronger next time we come out. So.
Well, the crew is thrashing. Hopefully, they can mend the Hemi.
Yes.
And get another round.
I'm very thankful for them, and we'll come out stronger, like I said before. So yeah.
Hey, Steve Magnante here with Richard Prizer in Gainesville, Florida, with a couple of Mustangs, a 68 and a 67. They look similar, but they're not the same. Tell me about this one here.
This one's a 67 Mustang. It has a 2010 Cobra Jet factory engine in it. That's why the class is called Factory GT. This one also has a ladder bar system. It's tubbed. It has a C4 transmission. And the RPM range is between 8 and 9,000 RPM.
That's a Windsor-style small block. This one's a little bit different. What class is this one in, and what is that engine?
This is a 1968 Mustang Cobra Jet. This is a 428 Cobra Jet with a C4 transmission. And RPM range is anywhere between 6 and 7,000 RPM.
This one's in C-stock automatic.
Yes.
This one runs in GT, as you mentioned. The GT class has to have an engine from a parts manual, or parts, whatever, parts. Where's the engine have to come from in this?
Actually, the manufacturers got together, Mopar, Chevrolet, and Ford, and decided, let's have build factory engines. That way you can put them in any older style car, because the parts were starting to get harder and harder.
It's like a crate engine shootout.
Correct.
Okay, all small blocks in this world here, is that correct?
It goes up to big blocks as well.
Okay.
And NHRA has factored them accordingly, and you run off your factored.
I have to say the presentation, the graphics are beautiful.
Thank you.
Are these graphics, are they vinyl, or are they paint?
Everything is paint.
Beautiful
Everything
stuff.
is paint. Thank you.
So you mentioned a four-link. Let's go to the back of the car. We see that this one here, the FGT, GTJ, I guess, and the Super Stock, or the C Stock, has bigger tires on the GT, smaller tires on the C Stock automatic, and also a difference in rear suspension. Now this one here is a suspension that's not stock at all. What do we have?
This one is a 4-link with a single wheelie bar. The two things that they both have in common is I run radials. They're not bias plies. They're both automatics, so the consistency and to get a little bit more ET out of them, we run radials. But obviously the biggest difference is this is a 1432 and this is a 30 by 9, so 9-inch and 14-inch.
I know in the old days, wrinkle walls were the rule of the drag strip. Now drag radials have a stiffer sidewall. Yeah. And what other benefits do they have?
They don't move as much on ET,
okay,
right? And they're also quicker.
Okay.
The lower horsepower cars can pick almost up a tenth. Typically with higher horsepower, you get maybe 500s to 700.
Now speaking of horsepower, how much horsepower does the Windsor engine make in this Mustang?
This one's, it's factored at 289. It makes over 700.
Okay. Now, of course, the NHRA factoring system is a means to equalize the playing field in some ways and make racing more interesting. Now, of course, the 428 in this was factory rated 335 horsepower. What's it factored to?
Right now it's factored to 380.
Okay.
Because I run the cast iron heads.
Okay.
Now, if you ran the aluminum heads, you would get factored at 383. Okay. So for the 3 horsepower, I'd rather just run the steel heads. And this one makes over 500.
I see the deck lids are open, which gives us a chance to look at the chassis and the roll cage and the structure inside. I see the down bars and tubes, I should say, come from the bulkhead to the back, and that's pretty typical 4-link suspension stuff. On the Mustang here with the leaf springs in the back and the Caltrax bars, we have a different roll cage. Tell me about that.
Yes.
Mini tubs.
Actually, no mini tubs.
No tubs.
It's stock eliminated, so it has to keep stock suspension. So that's why you'll notice the bars are out wide, which stays with the frame rails. See, with the Super Stocker, it's a back half car, so the rails are shortened, so that's why the bars are further.
And of course,
in.
they both run on gasoline.
Yes.
You know.
They both run exactly the same fuel, which is C12. It makes it easier not to mix fuels when they're both running the same fuel.
Right. Good stuff. Well, thank you very much for your time.
Yes, thank you.
Have a good race.
Thank you very much.
The C-Stock Mustang, the rule book says you have to run factory-style cast iron cylinder heads, which we see here, and also a Ford aluminum intake manifold, which is an uncommon piece, but again, this is factory stock and NHRA legal for this class. And on this car here, which is more liberal rules interpretation, this has the Windsor with aluminum cylinder heads, which are legal, of course, with electronic fuel injection right there. So more modern than the carbureted iron-headed Mustang 428 in the other example of this breed. I'm Steve Magnante here with Dwayne with a 1970 Challenger RT. One thing I love about stock class drag racing is the cars look very much like a stocker, and in many ways they have to be like a stock vehicle in many ways. And Dwayne, tell me about this one here. What's under the hood? I see something special on the hood.
Yeah, this is a 446 pack is what we have here. Originally a 318 car. I raced a 446 pack in a super stock car, so I've been racing 446 packs for over 40 years. So when I went to a stocker, that just made sense to build a six-pack car. They're good motors, they're lower RPM, they last a long time, they're not real expensive, so that's why I race it.
Now, 3 Holley 2-barrel carburetors, are they difficult to tune, or have you nailed that and figured it out a long time ago?
Well, once you get them set, they have to be stagger jetted for the manifolds. And if you look back at actually the factory jetting and the way they did the power valve channel restrictions, they were stagger jetted from the factory, but nobody paid any attention to that. They took all that stuff out and put in what they wanted. So once you get them stagger jetted, I never touch them. I just leave them the way they are.
Let's take a look at that six-pack. Before we do that, the hood on this is that a factory option? It looks like a Challenger TA type hood.
Yeah.
Is it legal in this class?
It is a factory option. It is legal because they shipped. So the story is, at the end of the assembly line, they ran out of shaker hoods. They had these TA hoods left. So they put them on. There's actually a code for that. You can find it on the real cars, on their plate, identification plate. But this is the way they came, so that's the way we're.
This is a fiberglass hood, which is legal in class. It's a little bit lighter, which is fine.
And that's why, there's always what's better for the classes, a Challenger or a Cuda in these classes. And I like the fiberglass hood. The shaker hood's a very expensive hood. So that's when I went to buy a car, I bought the Challenger specifically for this.
Now, not to be a nitpicker, but I know the six-pack arrived in 1969 and a half with an aluminum intake, but for 1970, a cast iron manifold. Are they both legal in class? Obviously.
Yeah, they're both legal. Yeah, this is the aluminum one. It has the factory numbers on it still. This is a reproduction. I don't know how old this one is, but they still have the factory number on them when you get them from Elk Rock still.
I see you still rolling with the factory air filter element in place.
Yeah.
That's
to slow the car down.
Okay.
It slows it down 1/10 of a second. So it's an easy, when you want to pick up 1/10 of a second, take the air cleaner off. And that's because the air cleaner is so close to the top of the carburetors, air has a hard time going like that.
Now this is an A-stock automatic, Torque Flight 727. Yep. The rear axle is
It's a Dana,
okay.
456. Yeah. It's pretty basic stuff. I mean, this is pretty basic the way we run these things.
Now, of course, today is Saturday. It's Eliminations Day. How is your race going so far?
Yeah, I've won 2 rounds so far, so that's going good. If we can get through the second round, now we're, starting to knock down the people in the round, and hopefully we can go all the way to the final. That's the plan.
Well, thanks very much. Wish you luck, and what a beautiful challenge you have.
Thank you very much.
any Mopar guy what their dream car is, many will say a 71 Cuda convertible. Well, this is Tim Quinton, and this is his 71 Cuda convertible with some light modifications. Tim, tell us about this car.
Well, this is a one-off car. We custom made the body off molds off a Cuda I had. Dan Page in New Hampshire helped us do it. And very happy the way it came out. It was 2 years of sanding and putting together and making it work. The whole thing was I wanted a 71 Cuda with a shaker. I didn't want a big giant scoop, it would have ruined the look. And nobody was coming out with one, so we ended up making it.
Now, of course, how many pieces of fiberglass did you have to bond together to make this happen?
Oh, it was multiple. It was quarters, trunk, top was one, probably 9, 10 different pieces.
And unlike a lot of super gas cars, which are GM powered, this is Mopar powered. Tell me about the engine.
This is all Mopar powered. It's a 555 cubic inch Indy motor, mega block. You know, we kept everything Mopar, so.
Roughly the horsepower is got to be
almost 900.
900.
Yeah.
It runs on alcohol or pump
C12.
gas? C12.
C12 pump gas. I mean, race fuel.
Race fuel.
Yeah.
Let's take a walk around. The cockpit, of course, is very secure.
Yeah, Dan Page makes a great car. Everything, we wanted all the whistles. It's got a electric air step. It's got all the compressor on board. It's got everything that one of these cars need.
This looks like B5 blue. Is it a variation thereof?
It is. It's actually a Aston Martin blue. Okay. Up in Vermont, we had a big restoration shop up there, and we built Pro Touring cars. And they loved the blue with the cream interior.
Yes.
And I said, you know, that would look good on a race car, so we went ahead and did it that color.
Very tasteful.
Thank you.
And around the back of the car, I love how you've continued the Cuda graphics. The 990 is your dial-in, or your
yeah. I didn't want to put the engine. Everybody puts the engine. I said, well, I run super gas. I'll put the 990 on it. And then we have a lot of little things like the Chrysler emblem for the pull-off. You know, I tried to keep a lot of Mopar stuff. You know?
And the crowning touch here, the Cuda.
Those
logo.
are actually working taillights and everything. So. And I didn't want anybody to come up and go, nice Camaro. I didn't want that. So I had to look like a Cuda. So.
If enough people stood in line, would you make another one of these bodies, or no, it's a one-off, right?
Right now, it's going to be a one-off. I could make it to Synergy in Canada, and they'll make me a carbon fiber body, but I want to be the only one to have it right now. So I like being a different one. So
how has your race been so far? Of course, you know, qualifying and
it was good. We only have probably 10 runs on this car for super gas. So we're still learning the car and everything, and they ran good during testing. We won the first round. We just ran a little slow the second round, but the car's leaving good, reacting good, so I'm happy with it. So I'm looking forward to Gainesville.
Cool. I imagine any Mopar lover comes around and asks you questions about the car.
Everybody seems to love it, which I appreciate. It was a lot of work, so it's nice to see people like it and all that, you know, because there's some Mopar guys out there, so, you know. Instead of a Corvette or Camaro.
A few of us.
Yes, a few of us.
Well, thanks for your time and a beautiful car.
No problem. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Hey, Steve Magnante here in Orlando Speed World with Dave Thomas and his Challenger drag pack, but it's a bit unusual. When you think about most drag packs, you're thinking about the Gen 3 Hemi, but this one's kind of unusual. What makes this one different, Dave?
They only made it 1 year, and they supposedly made 50 of them.
Okay.
But actually, if you look in any specs, there's one qualifying sheet, but there's only 5 of them ran this past year in the whole country, and 4 of them are in Division 1.
Wow. Now, theoretically, for legality in Superstock, you have to have 50 units for homologation. Did they make 50 of these?
I believe so.
Okay, so wink. So let's have a look at that Viper-powered Challenger, and there it is right there. V10, and this is the 8 point, how many liters is this one here? 8 liters?
This is 5/12 inches. I think that I can't remember whether it's
8.4
8.2 or 8.4.
Yeah. So here it is. Now the big question is, you know, typically these cars want to go through the traps at like 7,000 or 8,000 RPM. You can't spin a V10 to 7,000 or 8,000.
No.
So how high do you turn this one?
We only turn it like, we have a rev limiter at 72.
72.
It seems like it's happy at,
Yeah.
happy at 7, you know, and then also, even though we're running the super stock, this is a stock motor. All I have to do to put it back in the stock is put the 9-inch tire on.
Has it been blueprinted and taken out and checked over?
Yes, it has.
Yeah,
Yes, it has been.
Yeah.
You know.
And it's a beautiful example. Now, of course, the livery, the colors on this one are Ram Chargers colors.
Yes, yes. And I'd gotten that Mike Costello at 2011. I think he was building a 392, and he decided to go with the Ram Chargers because he knew the gentleman at that time that owned the rights to that. And I said, put me on there too. You know.
And if you didn't know, of course, Sox and Martin is to Plymouth what the Ram Chargers were to Dodge in the 60s and early 70s. So both dynasties in racing history, and it's good on you for having the retro, the sense to have the retro theme on this one here.
Yeah.
And again, one question too is, with this engine turning to 400 RPM is 3. What kind of transmission? Can you run a power glide? Do you need a third gear?
They originally came with power glide.
Yeah.
But then the Cobra Jet and the Copos came out, and they had 3-speed transmissions.
Okay.
So then they allowed us to put a 3-speed in. Okay. So it has a Turbo 400 in there now.
So it doesn't have to wind to the moon with a power glide, which would not be healthy for a V10.
And one time I think we tried a 208 first gear for the power glide to get it off the line a little better, and they said it would last 5 runs, and I think it lasted 4.
Oh.
So then we started politicking, so we need to be on an equal basis with the other manufacturers, and they let us put a 400 in.
Another retro touch I like on this car is your choice of wheels. Now, back in the 70s, motor wheel, in the 60s and 70s, they made the Magnum 500 for Chrysler and other companies, but these are motor wheel flies, or replicas thereof.
Yes.
Are these handmade or billet machines?
These are made by Bogart.
Bogart.
And that's where Mike Costello, once again, he says, I think he got them for his car, and I saw him, I said, I want a set of those, and I just got another set last year. So.
And they have sort of a spun look to them, and maybe a magnesium thing.
Yes.
Beautiful look.
And I remember, the wheels when they were out, the fly wheels, but then I remember guys that had street rods were really sought after those, and we put them on street rods. And
they're pretty delicate wheels.
Yeah.
And how is the car running today in qualifying? And is it doing
we haven't made any passes yet.
Right.
We had a problem with the brakes. Going in the staging lanes, it didn't feel right. So we came back. Ended up being a braided line was leaking, and we fixed it. And we're going to make a run here soon.
Did the pedal feel funny? Did it give you a warning right up off the bat?
Well, it didn't seem like till I pulled into the staging lane, and I said, I got enough brakes, and then I said, nah.
Better safe than sorry.
Yeah.
Now, do you pop the chute on this car at the end of the track, or do you need to?
I have it. It's set up for a parachute. I don't have it on there right now. That was another thing I was going to do this weekend here. Put it back on. I've never used a chute before, but
now, I have to say, with a name like Dave Thomas, I would have thought that you were in charge of Wendy's restaurants, but you are a restaurateur.
Yes.
Which restaurants are you in charge of?
Dairy Queen in Westchester.
Okay.
Dairy Queen in Westchester.
So not Wendy's, but close.
and it's been in the family since 1956.
Well, very cool. Well, Dave, thanks for talking to us about your very unusual V10 powered Dodge Challenger drag pack.
Thank you.
Have a great race. I'm here with Josh Decker, the owner of this 1972 Corvette 454. Now, the Corvette is an interesting vehicle because they came from the factory from 1963 onward with independent rear suspension, which is not that robust on the drag strip. So the NHRA allows people to upgrade the rear suspension with what?
Oh, it's got a 12 bolt in it. You can put any GM housing in it, but 12 bolt seems to be the strongest, so that's what we're running here in this one.
But yeah, you still have to incorporate the stock leaf spring in it, which is a single spring, mono spring, I guess. But it makes it for a rough and bumpy ride, but it gets on down the racetrack with no problems.
So that eliminates the breakage problems with the independent rear suspension that these came from the factory.
All this torque in it, they'd probably just snap a couple of those right off.
And speaking of torque, I see on the hood we have 454. Can we open the hood and have a look at the engine? Now, this one runs in C stock automatic, and let's take a peek at that rat motor. Yeah, very much. There it is, the 454 big block. What I see here is a cast iron intake. Now tell me why you have to use the cast iron and a quadrajet.
Oh, because that's right. You got to run a stock intake and stock carburetor or stock whatever came from the factory. And yeah, as you can see, it's cast. It's got a little rust on it. We just swapped it out last year and didn't even paint it yet. But yeah, I mean that's if we could just put a better intake on it, it'd probably pick up quite a bit here.
Right. Now, tube steel headers, of course, are used, and they're legal in class.
Yep. And stainless headers.
And camshaft, you can blueprint the engine, but there's certain camshafts you can and can't use?
Correct. You only have a certain amount of lift and duration that you're allowed to run with it, but it gets down through here pretty good. It's a second under player at Indy, which doesn't quite stay up with them Chryslers, but it does all right.
Cool. How's the race going for you so far? I see you're still in the running with a 1053.
Oh no, I unfortunately lost first round. I was a little late on the tree and couldn't hardly run my dial in, but we're on to Gainesville next week and we'll keep on trying.
Okay, well thanks for your time. Now we know why independent suspension can be changed out in Super and C stock and how it's legal thanks to the minimized breakage. With Dave Lay, who is in charge of the scales and the fuel check. Tell me first about the scales. Why are they needed in drag racing?
Well, in class racing, class-specific racing, everybody has a minimum weight, and that's why we have to weigh everybody to make sure they're within the limits of the class specifications. That way it's an even playing field for everybody, and we do that every run.
Do the racers get a printout of their vehicle race weights for their application? And for their
No, I give them their weight as they come on the scale. I tell every racer what they weigh.
I'm going to say, about an hour ago, I saw a fellow with a Gen 3 Firebird in a bad mood. What was he sad about?
Probably because he lost.
Okay, or underweight? Does it ever happen?
No, I haven't had anybody underweight this weekend yet. So.
Okay, let's talk about fuel. Now, gasoline, of course, is the primary fuel in the stock class drag racing, of course.
Correct.
Now, you check the fuel for what reason?
To make sure there's no funny business going on with the fuel. We have certain specific fuels. We have an accepted fuel list. You can only run certain types of fuel because regular pump gas, even though you would think that would be legal, it's not because it's oxygenated. And anytime you have a positive reading on a fuel sample, that means the gasoline has been oxygenated, which is a performance enhancer. So we have specific rules that you have to run, and that's why we check it. And if it's out of spec, then there's either something wrong or it's been mixed with some. You cannot mix race fuels.
And I know they submit a fuel sample.
Yes.
And what's the test equipment? What does it do? Is it like a graduated? What's the?
Well, we have parameters for every fuel that there is, and we check the dielectric on it. Is what we do. Dielectric, not specific gravity. We need dielectric. And it's easier to detect foreign materials in that way. And then if there's suspect of somebody using stuff, we have agents that we can add to the fuel that detect exactly what it is.
Now tell me quickly about mixing brands of fuel. What happens there? Can you
can't do that because everybody's specs for that particular brand.
Like Camtu or Sunoco, it's going to be a different brand.
Exactly, and it messes up the readings real bad. And that's why the different fuels are different colors.
Okay.
Yeah.
If a fella has maybe a couple of gallons of Camtu in his tank, does he make sure he gets that out of there before he comes in?
Yes, when somebody has to change fuels, we tell them to clean out the whole system, flush some of the new stuff through, including the filters, because that'll stay in the filters if you don't flush that out. And some fuel cells, because of roundy round racing, they have an insert inside the fuel cell to stop slosh on roundy round cars. I suggest to all drag racers to take that out because that gets contaminated with the fuel that's in it. If you change fuels, you're never going to get it right. So that's why you take that out.
Well, Dave Lay, I want to thank you for keeping the racers honest and accurate and legal. And thanks for what you do here.
Thank you.
One of the NHRA's logos is ingenuity in action. And when it comes down to track oil downs, to clean them up, they use things like this. This is basically a scrubber. What it is these are drag slicks. They're new, but they're suspended above the track. They're lowered down. And when this moves forward, this chain, by way of a Ford 9-inch drive shaft or drive unit right here, these rotate opposite direction from the tires, which actually scrubs into the track to delete any of the rubber buildup that otherwise might cause traction problems for the racers. So again, ingenuity in action, courtesy of this device right here. And I understand that the designer of this holds a patent on this idea, and this has saved a lot of time on the drag strip. Quick cleanups, courtesy of machines like this. And when they're done using this track scrubber with the drag slicks, they break out the sprayer. This takes VHT, compressed in basically in that reservoir right there. It sprays it down onto the track surface to provide a glue-like texture so the slicks bite in and maximum traction is achieved. Once again, the NHRA's logo is ingenuity in action. Hot rodding takes many forms, including things like this. One thing that's here, a lot of Corvettes. We have a 57 Roadster, 63 or 6 or 7 Roadster, and a more modern C7 Roadster over here. These are all super gas competitors, which means they have insane big blocks under the hood. And the one thing they all have in common is they have fiberglass bodies, just like real Corvettes. They're very real. These puppies run into the 8-second zone. And they're amazing vehicles. And again, they're Corvettes, they're fiberglass, but they're a lot faster than any Corvette ever was. I'm Steve Magnante here in Orlando, Florida. A beautiful, sort of an overcast day. No rain yet. Hopefully there won't be any. With Joe Costello running a super gas Firebird. Now tell me, supercar.
Super Street.
Super Street, there we go.
Yeah.
I'm more of an AFX Superstock kind of a guy. So it's a 1977 Pontiac Firebird.
78.
78. Was it once a Trans Am?
No, it is a Trans Am.
It is a Trans Am.
It is a real
It's
Trans
VAN.
Am. Yes.
Was it a 400 car?
Yes.
Nice. Very cool. What's it got now? Let's pop the hood and
Now it's got a 535 with an all Pontiac block. But the car was purchased brand new by my father. I was at the dealership. I was 5 years old when we bought this car. It's a one-owner car. 78 Trans Am. It had the 400. It was white with a red interior. The car drove me to kindergarten. Like, I went to kindergarten in this car. But, you know, we did a lot of racing, and we've kind of like resurrected it very recently. This is the first time it has been back to the racetrack.
Now, was it originally built a 4-speed or an automatic?
It was an automatic.
Wow.
It had a turbo 350.
Yeah, right on. And of course, 1978, final year for the good grill. 79 brought the sort of the molded grill with the sunken headlights. Do you ever worry about the front grill, the Banshee-esque grill, the Pontiac show car of 1971, whatever it was, aerodynamically restrictive? Does it cause drag? Do you care?
The car weighs 3,200 pounds. We've got so many other things that would restrict us more so than that. To me, the cool factor of the look of the grill, of all the cars that, you know, like we both appreciate just, you know, automotive design and history, but there are a couple of grills that really stand out. And maybe Smokey and the Bandit had something to do with it, but this one is iconic. And so I definitely agree this is one of the best grills. So even if it was, I'm for it.
And I'm always learning things around Joe. We did the SEMA show in Las Vegas maybe 12, 15 years ago, and we were working for Horsepower TV on a budget, and they put us in the same room. Joe informed me that I snore like a freight train.
Roommates!
Thank you, Joe. We're
roommates!
Yes,
and listen, since we're breaking the fourth wall, I'm so happy your health and your situation and your back, and like you're like one of the most knowledgeable guys in all of motorsports or automotive, and to have you back, it's great news. Like, the whole community rallied around, and for you to be here, like, talking about my own car, like, talk about completing the circle of life in a way automotive life. I'm just so happy to have you here, Steve.
It's good to be back. It's good to be back and working out my mind and my body here at the drag strip, which is a great thing. So speaking of drag and drag racing, let's pop the hood and check out the big block Pontiac under the hood.
Well, technically they say big block Pontiac, but they're all the same. The 400, the 455. This is an all Pontiac. So when we first got the car, see, being a Pontiac person,
well, the 301 had a shorter deck.
But the heads can go on everything, and the manifolds can go on everything. But being a Pontiac person is really interesting because you spend more to go slower. But you can say you're a Pontiac guy, and that's why we do it. But the last time, when we originally built the car has been in this style with the back half and the 4-link suspension since the early 90s. But in that time, there were no Pontiac aftermarket parts available. You had to use cast iron block, cast iron heads. There was a Warrior intake. You remember that Doug Nash Warrior intake? Sure. And that was really it. So it was a great challenge. Now, in the 2020s, everything is available. So we have an all Pontiac.
Before you open the hood, that's not a shaker. This would have come with a shaker.
I still have the shaker at home. There is an aspiration to eventually put the shaker back on, but now with the throttle stop mechanism, it is irrelevant. All right, here we go.
Behold. Beautiful.
Thank you.
Dominator. And cubic inches and horsepower, give me a quick rundown.
Okay, 535. There's a big thing we did called Project Pontiac on my WFO Radio YouTube channel.
Another Pontiac.
Another Pontiac. We love Pontiac. The Resurrection, Project Pontiac. So the previous engine made 600 horsepower, and I had wanted to freshen it up. Turned out the block was cracked. And so Gary Stinnett from Stinnett Racing, who's a 4-time Super Comp world champ, builds class engines and comp engines. He's like, what are we going to do? And so we got all new stuff. It's basically a full new build. All Pontiac block, 535 cubic inches. Our goal was to make 800 horsepower with the Edelbrock cylinder heads. There are multiple choices of cylinder heads. The Edelbrock is pretty much a direct factory replacement made of aluminum. And so to be able to make the 800 with the Edelbrock heads would have been plenty good for our goal of running Super Street. This car is built to run NHRA Super Street. I work for the National Hot Rod Association as an announcer. I really appreciate the skill and what it takes to go out there and compete. This car weighs 3,200 pounds, so Super Street was where we would have to race. So we built everything with the intention of being competitive in Super Street. 800 horsepower would have been plenty enough. We made 844. So we exceeded our goal. It's got a Wilson manifold. Keith Wilson is based in South Florida.
He's the go-to guy.
Longtime friend, former competitor at Moroso Motorsports Park. He's like, are you sending me the manifold? I was like, well, Keith, he's like, you're sending me the manifold. I was like, okay. This is a collaborative effort of so many people who have been helpful to me. I couldn't possibly thank you all. I couldn't thank them all enough. But everything is new with exception of, ready? The distributor hold down tab. That's one. What is the other? I think it's the distributor hold down tab.
Water pump housing, maybe?
No, that's new.
Okay.
Yeah, it kind of looked, aged. Yeah. But anyway, you see Stinnett 1050 Dominator, the throttle stop mechanism, which that is, we could go into strategy of the .90 categories if you want, but that's the way to do it. You can have maximum speed and still run the relatively slower 1090 ET. The Edelbrock heads, and we just recently, for the first time ever, did a front suspension on the car. It's got a 4-link back half, but the front suspension was factory A-arms, factory springs. And now we have Global West A-arms, we've got AFCO front springs.
So the leaf springs are long gone under the back of this Trans Am.
Long gone, and I'll show you that if you like. But my father, who is, this is his car, recently deceased 6 months ago, very unfortunate, but he always wanted to keep the car as road-worthy as possible, to keep it as stock as possible. So you can see even with the shroud and everything, we wanted it to look as stock as possible.
Yeah. And I see attention to detail. Let's open the door, being as this is a door slammer.
Yep.
And the attention to detail is mouth-watering. The graphics down the side of the body are beautiful, around the back, the trunk spoiler, and in the door jambs, what do we find here, Joe?
Well,
it continues.
Yes. So the car was painted in, there's a long story. The short version is this is a repaint in the mid-90s. And we had always, followed drag racing, NHRA drag racing, for the craziest OCD people in the world. That's where the attention to detail comes from. So yes, of course you have to continue the stripes into the inside. And we were one of the first, like I would say, local cars to have that. Inside, you know, we just continue with the red interior and the roll bar padding. We kept the factory seats. I wanted it to appear as factory as is possible. It's called a back half car, is what you would call this, because it's all suspension back here. But right behind the seat, we kept factory seats. A lot of people would like to, you know, racing seats and everything, and maybe eventually we'll do that. But I wanted to keep the factory look. Factory wheel, of course, my trans brake button. It's got a power glide transmission, but we have a you know, air shifter, and we're able to keep the console. Hurst quarter stick as the shifter. So I took the quarter stick for the power glide and the quarter stick for the Turbo 350, and we like mixed all the parts to have it work with the console. So that's enabled us to keep the console.
I like the engine turn dash, which of course is a Trans Am feature, and of course RTS does not stand for Plymouth Rapid Transit System, but the radial tuned suspension.
Is that even a thing? Radial tuned suspension.
Well, I guess the radial tires. You know, the Pontiac engineers designed the suspension to work with the radial tires, which were a new thing in the 1970s, and thus the RTS on the dash.
Marketing scam. You know. But anyway, it's great. We just got this thing back together yesterday. I thrashed. I've never worked harder on anything in my life, hours put in, than we have on making this race right here.
But how far did you drive?
3 hours. 3 hours. Fort Lauderdale, Florida is home for me. Pembroke Pines is actually home. We're South Floridians. Came north, thus the jacket. You know, people from north, they're in t-shirts and shorts right now. But it's all glass. You know, the windows roll up and down. It's a real car. Still got the crash bars in the doors. There's about 14 pounds per door that we could save. And then under the trunk, no
still steel.
No fiberglass anywhere on the car. We kept it all steel. We give something to get something, right?
Yeah, very tight.
But you can see the wheel tubs, the anodized aluminum, 4-gallon cell.
So again, the attention to detail right into the trunk jams, and just nice work.
Best as we could.
Now, do you have a podcast, or how can people reach you?
Yes, I do have
Tell
a
me
podcast.
about that.
Okay, so the podcast is called WFO, like wide, fast, open. WFO Radio. You can find us on YouTube as well, WFO Radio TV, but I do podcasts, mostly NHRA drag racing. Either Lucas Oil Series Sportsman Racing, of course the pros, Mission Foods Drag Racing Series, Ron Capps, John Force, Antron Brown, that kind of stuff. That's where I work on the weekends. But now I'm delving into the world of sportsman racing myself. As an announcer for the NHRA, any experience that I can get inside the race car and on the track is going to help me be a better announcer. Yeah. And I already have gained a whole lot of experience just by coming to this race. For what our fellow Lucas Oil Series racers do. It has been amazing. Just wired the whole car. We just got this thing wired, got my Go lithium batteries for the first time in my life. It's been very interesting how it has all worked.
Well, Joe, good luck with the race, and may you add a trophy to your collection and your knowledge of the drag race sport, of course, and of course announcing it. One of the greats, really. I've heard you announce it.
Thank you, Steve.
At Colorado. There we go.
Oh, Bandamere.
Yes, Bandamere. Thank
Bandamere.
you very much.
Oh, rest in peace, Bandamere. We miss you.
Yes, yes.
Likewise, you know, we have a list of goals. We've just completed our first goal. We made it to the track. That was really the first goal. Second goal was kind of warm it up and just drive it around. We got brand new TBM brakes on this thing. That's another thing. We just took the factory brakes off, put aftermarket brakes on for the very first time. It's a totally different feel, different vibe. They are totally different, right? But they stopped the car well. So now we're going to go through some preliminary warm-ups to get ready for throttle stop racing, and going to make our first runs in the car here today.
We'll all be rooting for you, and have a great race, Joe. Good to see you again, sir.
Thank you, Steve.
And I'll stop snoring. I'll try. Well, we're back once again with Joe Costello, day one, test and tune. How was your day so far?
Well, it was been very busy. There's a lot you have to do to run these throttle stop situations. A lot of people don't understand them, but it's very cool. It's a very fun style of racing, and it like levels the field budgetarily, and so a guy like me can compete. But to learn all the nuances, to set your throttle stop at the right RPM, to get it to activate at the right time, it takes veteran experience. So I've got a couple people helping me. My great friends Dave and Sue Morris and Gary Stinnett. You know, he's on the phone. We're working on it. A lot of measurements. So anyway, did all of that this morning. Had to clearance one of the tires. We had a tire rub, which could have been a dangerous situation. Everybody knows you got to go over the car hundreds and hundreds of times. So we did that. Had rain this morning, as you know. Then I did a conference call for an hour for the NHRA. Think about this. I'm excited to go run, and now is the time, and the conference call starts, 1 hour, about track announcing in 2025.
Little distracting when you're racing to have something like that happen, but you have to do your duty.
It was my job. That's the only reason I'm here. I love the NHRA, super excited. Brian Loans, David Freiberger, it's gonna be great. So went and did that, but then made a run. They were like, take it easy, first run, maybe go to the 8th mile. Got in there. Everybody knows the perfect reaction time is 000, right? First light, 005, crushed it, and the car was going. And I felt like, feels good, I'm gonna stay with it. So ran it out the back, went 1069 at 141. So that's our first run. Now from that run, we're gonna make some adjustments to the throttle stop and all the timers and the actuators and try to get closer to that 1090. And that's what we're using, because I only get 3 runs tomorrow. All these guys are pros, they've been around here 100 years. So I need to get as close to that 1090 so we know the car does what we want it to do. So I made the first run and now we're getting ready to go back up.
Now you mentioned tire rubbing. Was that the back of the car?
Yes.
Did you hear it or smell it?
Neither. Well, maybe a little squeak because it was going into and out of the trailer, and I saw a little like chalkiness on the sidewall. And so it had always been close, and we decided to clearance it so it's not a question anymore. And so we, we got the grinders out and we made it happen.
Well, tomorrow's qualifying. We'll touch base again with Joe and see how things are going.
You guys are like covering Project Pontiac all the way. I love it. I'm super excited, and it's just been amazing. And please allow me to just thank you and thank everybody. I am blown away. Making that first run, Steve, first run down the track with everything, and it worked. It's like, I don't want to compare it to a religious experience because I want to be respectful, but it was. So thank you.
Right on.
I hope we have a great story for you tomorrow.
Right on.
Thank you.
We'll follow up. Well, I'm here with Joe Costello, who's had an interesting weekend so far. Of course, today is the first day of eliminations. We'll talk about that in a moment. Before that, yesterday with qualifying, you had a mystery electronic problem happen with the track system. What happened then?
So we went up to make our first run and made a great run, felt great, and got back and the computer system, for whatever reason, glitched. Sometimes they have to reset the computer. It's nobody's fault. It just happens. Honestly, I'm surprised it doesn't happen more with the amount of cars that NHRA runs down the racetrack. But they signaled me like, hey, come back up. So that was such a great run. I was a little disappointed, but it afforded me the opportunity to get used to the car a little bit more, make another run, which was recorded and got us to this point.
Now, in summary, how did qualifying go for you yesterday?
Qualifying was actually really great. We're shooting, the index is 1090, so I won a 91 and an 89. So we're right where we needed to be, and that set us up for first round this morning.
Okay, moving it up to this today, how was the first round of eliminations and how did it go for you?
It was amazing, I won! Listen, this is a huge deal, Steve, this is a huge deal for me. We worked so hard, so many hours, so many people, so many companies, so many people, my NHRA friends, everybody, Gary Stinnett, Foggett, Steve Williams, everybody, my friends, Rick and Corey. And then it's on me.
Yeah.
And so here's the side story. 1 year ago, my wonderful friend for life, Lee Neal, lent me his truck so that I could come out and make some practice runs in Super Street. I raced his truck last year. This year, we're pulling in the lines, and a car in my lane had a problem and couldn't start. And so he fell out of the lane, setting up the fact that I had to race my friend Lee Neal in the first round. In the truck, WFO logos all over it. Tony's wearing a WFO shirt. He's wearing a Project Pontiac shirt. And we had to race.
Ooh.
And we had, which, you don't want to race your friends. Like this guy's friend for life, he helped me put the engine in this thing. We had to run first round. He's 14, I'm 11. He's 1 over, I'm dead with a 4. 1090 with a 4, dead on with a 4, dead 4. And I win!
Yeah.
And so I'm very thrilled, obviously bummed that we had to race first round, but just, one of those things.
Okay, well, eliminations continue shortly. We'll let you get ready for that and keep killing them.
I got a round win, not satisfied. Normally I would be like, this is good, we had a good weekend. No, we're going to keep on going.
Never rest on your laurels.
Never rest on anything. Thank you, Steve.
I'm here with Joe Costello. You had a heck of a weekend, of course. 4 rounds of eliminations. And what happened the 5th round?
Well, you ran into Rudy Matthews. I was 10, he's 002, rolled up alongside of me, and I felt like I could take it, and I started to take it, but then I felt like I was taking it by too much, and I knew I was a little under, was set up to go 89, so I just tapped the brake right in the stripe, but I was not going 89, I was actually going 90, so my 90 became a 92, and he squeaked by me by 2 thou.
Wow.
Gave back the win light, and so my weekend comes to an end. My last Steve Magnante interview. Oh my gosh,
Until the
this
next
is terrible.
time.
But okay, thank you. You're making me feel good about it. But wow, what a weekend.
Yeah. Well, for a new combination, you're doing great. The guys in the tower are saying he's really hitting out of the park, and they were ranting about this. And great work, even though the 5th round wasn't the best. But with that said, there's always the next race.
That's it. That's it. I exceeded all expectations for the car. Most importantly, like this race coming out. The first race, would it be competitive? Would it go down the track? Would there be a problem? Would there be an issue? We answered all those questions for ourselves. And then what would my reaction times be like? They were all good. I had, a bunch of double O's. I had 10. Losing with the 10, no shame in that. Everybody that was left was a very serious, accomplished racer. And that's the thing. That's why I want to do this, Steve. That's why I'm here. The Lucas Oil Series racers in the NHRA, I don't want to call them anonymous. We do our best to post about them on social media and NHRA TV, but it's one of those like, if you know, you know.
Yeah.
These are the best racers in the world because, they could all be doing anything else they want. They choose to do this .90 stuff, Super Comp, Super Gas, Super Street, competition eliminator racers. This is the major leagues, not just of the Mission Food Series and Nitro. And so it's an honor to be able to just come out and compete. I learned a lot that I will apply when I'm announcing. And of course, stuff on my podcast, WFO, like to talk about these stories, to showcase what we just did. You guys getting content, thank you so much for featuring Project Pontiac.
Yeah. And what I got to say is too, the great thing is you're doing this in a Pontiac, a pure Pontiac car with a Pontiac engine, Pontiac body.
There's no other way to do it.
Yeah.
Project Pontiac. And, we got a playlist on the YouTube channel. On there, people, go look. In 1992, a local access TV station came out and did a feature on my father and me and my good friend Jeremy and his dad. Dads and sons that raced together. And I won the night, right? And here you guys, it's 40 years later, you come out and you're documenting, and I go 4 rounds. And get down to 8 cars. Got a little money back from NHRA.
Yeah.
That's right, NHRA. I'm taking some money back. But it couldn't have gone better. I mean, I could have won the race, right? I could have won that round. But in the end, we're talking about thousands of seconds. I feel great. The baby gators are next. The car is in a nice area. We're going to try to improve it and see where it goes.
I'm going to say, Joe Costello, the experience shows from round after round. You look like a pro, and you are a pro. So thank you for sharing your story with us here on McCann's channel.
Thank you so much. Appreciate everybody. Can't wait for the Sox and Martin Hemi Challenge at Indy. I know people are trying to win that thing from now. They're testing from now. So if you're watching this, you better be there.
Hey, I'm Steve Magnante here with Josh Barcy. We're about to go drag racing. I hope it stays dry, but one thing you have is a 67 Nova with the word Flintstone on the side. Where's the background for that name, Flintstone?
So my grandpa's last name is Flint, and it was back in the early 90s where he had one of his good friends. They always called him, Flintstone. And so he said, I'll pay to put Flintstone inside your car. And so it stuck and never has left it since then. So that's where it kind of happened. And still some of his old friends become by, hey, Flintstone, Flintstone. They'll never call him by his first name. So that's really where it came from.
So Betty and Barney Rubble are not in the picture.
Not in the picture.
Flintstones, the cartoons.
but we kind of still go under their, we kind of still, we're still the Flintstones, But and realistically, no, it's just from a nickname from his last name being Flint and from history, yeah.
Now this car runs in what class?
It runs super stock C modified, so we got it set up for. It's got a 320-inch cube inch motor. It's got you can run 2 4s, but we got one single carburetor on there right now. It's just more efficient, more consistent. At the end of the day, if there's no C modified cars here right now, I don't think so. It's just a bracket race, and I'd rather have that wind light come on than be 10ths faster any day.
Now, one thing that's kind of unusual about this car is what's behind that small block engine. What is it?
It's a Liberty 5-speed, clutch. It's clutchless, but you take off with your clutch and bang into the gears, turn a lot of RPMs. It's fun.
Now, compared to running a strict automatic car, what's the driving experience? Is it more fun this way?
It's more fun, but it is more difficult. I mean, an automatic car, they have a whole lot more advantage, to leaving off a button. Your tree's going to be a whole lot more easy to be consistent, where I got a lot of motion and I got to leave off the clutch pedal. And staging is, I tell everybody who drives stick cars, staging is where the magic happens. You got to, where an automatic car can just bump in, a stick car, you got to have the right brake pressure and roll in with it, easing the clutch out. Sometimes you can roll a little too far in, too much. But so it's just a lot. It's a lot going on versus the automatic, a whole lot more difficult, especially when you're bracket racing. Where automatics, they don't have to worry about shifting. They can kind of judge stripe a lot better. Where I'm had to go through 5 gears before I'm kind of looking around. So it's a lot different.
This car has some family history. Tell me about that.
So my grandpa owned the car. Bought the car in 1980, and he kind of redone it, done his thing, and it originally was white, and it had the blue Flintstone side of it. And then in 96, when I was born, he painted it what it is now, and it's kind of just stuck the same paint scheme since 96. But he owned the car, and he's got four daughters, and I don't know, it's a lot of good history where it led up to now. I mean, now our whole family's into racing just because of this car, and it's been more than a car to us. It's more like a family member, and I don't know. We revolve our life around this. That's for sure.
Well, Josh, have a great race, and I'll put a good word in with Betty and Barney for you in TV land.
He's pissed. Staging lane's lady's pissed. So we are down here in Orlando, Florida. We drove here 12 hours last night, and I will be running this dragster in Super Comp, and my brother will be running his Roadster in Super Gas. We have not unloaded it yet. And this is the start of the NHRA Division II season, and this will kind of see if we have our stuff together or not. This will be test day, so we'll be able to get 3 or 4 runs apiece today and kind of see how it plays out.
We're about to go do a first warm-up on gas. I've been on alcohol for fuel the whole time that I've been running it. Didn't really work out for me last year on the throttle stop. Worked great bracket racing, so we're kind of taking a swing, making a carburetor change, and gonna go see what happens today. All new setup, so we're very optimistic. While I check over some of the last few things before I crank it up, make sure there's no leaks or anything, Jason's gonna go warm his up.
Well, we're about to go make a pass. Yeah, we're shooting for 890. I don't know exactly where to put the throttle stop settings at. I misplaced my notes from last year. So we're gonna take a stab at it and see how close we get.
We are going to make a first run. Not gonna do a throttle stop hit, just gonna make a clean 8 mile hit, maybe a little further if I feel like it, just to make sure it all works right, feels right with the new carburetor, new fuel. And then we'll come back, throw it on the throttle stop, assuming it all goes well, and try to go 990. So we made a little 8 mile blast right there just to make sure it was all good. It actually mile an hour better than it did on alcohol. Back half from 330 to the 8th, a number faster than the last time I came out. So that was cool. It's a little slow down low, but I think we got something to work with, and we're gonna turn the throttle stop on this time and shoot for a 990.
Well, the first run we went a 8.6, no, what did I go? Okay, restart. What did I go, a 76?
I can't.
God dang it.
You were driving. How do we know?
Okay, so the goal here is to go at 890. First run, we just put the motor back in and went at 876. I'll take it. We added 0.2 to the throttle stop. Should slow it down about 800ths. We're gonna take a baby step at it. The goal here is just to run between an 85 and a 90. Would be ideal. Sun came out pretty hard, so we might lose another 100th or 2 there. But we're gonna go make one more and see how we do. Well, yesterday we ended the day on a good note, went an 887. We're shooting for an 890. The air is about maybe 200s quicker today. We're gonna make a slight adjustment to the throttle stop, try to slow it down just a little bit. We should get either 2 or 3 qualifying runs today, and we're gonna try to make the best of them.
Is tire pressure a secret?
No. I don't know where to send these things out anyway.
right, so we went and made one run with the throttle stop. Went 987 right there. Slowed it down a few hundredths. We're gonna make another change to try to get back toward a 90 right here and see what happens. So all is going well. It's just nice and planted on the top end. Couldn't really ask for much better.
Well, we've made 2 runs so far. We're having slight difficulties. The stuff isn't always as easy as it seems. The car did perfect yesterday, and today it is continuously going faster and faster. We have not figured it out yet. We think it's tire related with the way it's leaving the starting line. So we're gonna make a tire pressure adjustment, see how it does this last lap, and hopefully we'll be ready for first round in the morning.
He's standing on a block and I'm not.
That's Jonathan looks like.
Stay like that. There we go. Well, today was qualifying.
Start over, sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, how am I going to edit that?
We were supposed to drop with it. Okay, you ready? You're not going to do any squats or anything?
Go.
Okay. Today was qualifying. We each got 3 runs apiece. For me, nothing went as planned. The car was really fast. It wasn't leaving the starting line consistently every time, so we're gonna need some luck tomorrow. I made a very drastic change on the last run. I kind of like the outcome. That's what we're gonna stick with first round. We're just gonna hope for the best.
My day started out a little smoother than his, and I thought we had everything kind of on cruise control with the Roadster, and everything was making sense with the adjustments. We just made our last pass in the nighttime. We got some cleanups in the way that put us off until this weather came around, and I thought the car was going to pick up a lot more than it did. I made an adjustment that slowed it down a lot. That was my fault, but we're learning with this new setup, so we'll figure it out and have a good weapon to race with tomorrow.
First round at 9 o'clock. We'll see how it goes. So apparently, these guys have people that they don't want to run. This blue Camaro right here didn't want to run the Dakota truck that has already run now. So he got out of line and then tried to get back in line. Now you have division director walking up over here, redhead dude. He's pissed. Staging lanes lady's pissed. They're probably trying to toss the dude. He's our neighbor. Oh man. Cody's giving me an ugly eye for talking with a mic. So we just got back from second round. We did not get a video of the run, but it was a win light. It was against one of what I would consider one of the toughest competitors out here in this class. We had identical reaction times up front, and it was just a game of numbers at the finish line. I broke out less than he did. So I made the decision coming up on the finish line that I needed to stay behind, and that's what I did, and it worked out.
Well, Steve Magnante here with the McCandless brothers, who've had a good weekend here in Orlando, Florida, not Ontario, California, is the difference, about 3,000 miles actually. But anyway, how did your race go? Go ahead.
Well, today went okay. We got through the first couple of rounds, kind of making some strides at figuring out the throttle stop setup. And third round, we kind of ran into the wrong guy at the wrong time, and we both made a really good lap, and his was just a little bit better. Took a little bit too much stripe down there. Should have gave it a few more rips, but we'll take it and learn from it next time.
Now you're driving the Roadster, and you're driving the Dragster, and how was your race?
Well, we did okay. First couple of rounds went great. Couldn't ask for much better. Car was struggling. Third round came around and I started struggling. Showed up on the red side of the tree, so that's not where you want to be, but I was set up very aggressive reaction time wise, and I knew that was a possible consequence. So it happened. We need to go back to the drawing board on potential rear tires to run and maybe a shock adjustment. So we have a test day in our near future, maybe in the next few weeks if the weather turns up decent back home.
And while you guys were on the track having fun, I was out in the pits and in the staging lanes getting the stories of various races, from stock class cars to super stockers to dragsters. Every type of vehicle. Had a blast this weekend, and it was a lot of fun. I hope you enjoyed the videos as well.
And while I do some of the finishing touches, so we're about to do